right, we are almost to the end of February, and that means we are close to March. And you know what March means? It means we are about to get another installment of the full cast Harry Potter audiobooks. This time, Order of the Phoenix. On March 10th, we are getting Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is going to be the longest full cast audiobook. And goodness gracious, is there so many casts that are going to be in this book. So today we're going to just talk about some of the scenes that we're going to look forward to, and some of the returning casts, and some of the new casts that we are going to see. Some we have seen a little bit of in Goblet of Fire, but they really have a large role in this book. So without further ado, let's talk about some of the scenes that I personally am looking forward to, and I hope in the comments you put some of the scenes that you are looking forward to about the full cast Order of the Phoenix. And of course, the biggest one that I'm looking forward to is all of the Ministry of Magic scenes. I think just, the full cast, like the full audio of going through the Ministry of Magic right before the hearing, I think is going to be amazing. And I think the battle at the Department of Mysteries is going to be really cool. If they do it the way that they did it in Goblet of Fire, because I think by far Goblet of Fire has found the balance of background sound versus action. Cush Jumbo is getting more into the book. I know a lot of people complain in the first two books that she was a little bit boring. She beefed it up a little bit in Prisoner of Azkaban with some of those Quidditch scenes where you have to be a little bit excited and talk a little bit fast. But in Goblet of Fire, holy cow, did she step it up. And the whole cast stepped it up. Yes, it was a bit of a shock when all of the new older cast started talking, and it's like, wow, you do not sound like prepubescent 12-year-old boys or girls. But I think in this one, it's going to fit a little bit better. Now that we're used to it with the fourth one, when we get to it here, it's going to be a lot better. Hopefully the direction for it is a little bit better between Harry and Ron, because that was a very difficult thing to differentiate, because the actor voicing Harry kind of actually sounds like Rupert Grint, so it makes it very confusing because my brain is like, yeah, that's Ron. Nope, it's Harry. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier in this. And I do want to make a comment towards some commenters who talk about how they hate the voice actors and they hate how they did the voices and they shouldn't have done them that way. It's not the voice actors. Do not criticize the voice actors. They are all very talented and they do a good job. Just because they're not doing it in the voice that you expect them to because they want to do it different, it's not their fault. If it is anybody's fault on, bad voice direction, it's not the voice actor. It is the director who is telling them how to do the voices. If you ever watch any behind the scenes of Jim Dale doing it, he would go in, he would say, here's how I think this voice is supposed to sound. And then the voice director who sat in the room with him, listening to it the entire time, goes, actually, can you do it just a little bit different? Because it sounds a little bit too much like this character. And they would play it back and Jim Dale would go, yeah, absolutely. That does sound very similar. And that was one thing that Jim Dale really wanted to do. So the fact that Harry and Ron do sound a little bit similar, it is not on the voice actors. It's on the casting and voice directors who should have been like, hey, you guys sound a little bit too similar. Can you, lower your voice a little bit? Can you raise yours up? But I think all in all, it is still very good. And if you don't like it, return it to Audible and get the Jim Dale version or the Stephen Fry version. Because the great thing about Audible is you can return books that you use credits on. You've got like a 30-day, I think, something like that. Return it, replace it with one of the other versions of the Harry Potter audiobooks. That's great. We have 3 different versions. You don't have to listen to the full cast. Jim Dale and Stephen Fry do a fantastic job. So find which one you like and stick with it. For me, I like all 3. So now that we're done with just addressing that, let's talk about some of the cast that we're going to see. So we have a wide variety of returning cast. I actually realized Order of the Phoenix is the only book that has every single Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher except for the one that's dead. Because we do get Kit Harington returning as Gilderoy Lockhart. We do get Ian Reel returning as Professor Lupin. We do have James McAvoy returning as Mad-Eye Moody, but technically coming back as Mad-Eye Moody because he was Mad-Eye Moody played by Barty Crouch Jr., but still, James McAvoy, Mad-Eye Moody. We also have Snape, who is the future Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, played by Riz Ahmed. And for our first big announcement, I know most people already know, but just in case you're watching this and haven't really looked at anything, Keira Knightley is going to be playing the wonderful, lovely Dolores Umbridge, which I'm really excited for. Based on how James McAvoy was almost indistinguishable as his Mad-Eye Moody, like, if I didn't know that was James McAvoy, I would not have known. I'm excited to see how Keira Knightley plays Dolores Umbridge. Because that's the thing, is we do have some people complaining about the voice direction, but I think the voice directors are doing a very good job at creating unique experiences with these voices. They're not exactly like what you would expect from the movies. And that's what I think a lot of people are upset about is, hey, these are the voices I have in the head from watching the movies over and over again. These don't sound like those voices. That's why Riz Ahmed as Snape is one of those ones that a lot of people dislike, is because he is completely different from Alan Rickman's Snape. We also get Kingsley Shacklebolt. We get a whole array of Aurors, not just Mad-Eye Moody, but we get Kingsley Shacklebolt, played by Abraham Papula, who I think is going to be great. I'm excited because he is also, like Sirius Black, supposed to have a deep voice. But I would like to hear how he sounds. I love Sirius Black's voice in the books. I know a lot of people are like, it doesn't sound like what I think it is. Well, you're probably thinking Gary Oldman, Sirius Black, not book Sirius Black. Because in the book, he is described to have a big, booming voice. Like a dog, because he's a dog. So his deep, booming voice is very fitting for him. And then the other Auror that we get is Ambika Mad, who is playing Nymphadora Tonks. But don't call her Nymphadora, we call her Tonks. But I'm excited to hear her. I think if played right, I think she would be perfect. Because I think she has two different personalities in the book. Like when we first meet her, she's very bubbly and, anxious and, excited to be, an Auror. She's one of the younger Aurors and she's just excited to be there. And then like later on, she's just kind of, downtrodden and just a little bit distracted and upset about something, but, isn't her normal bubbly, bubblegum pink self. So hopefully Ambika can play both. We're only going to see one in this, but hopefully we can get that wide range from her and she's not just playing it one note. And then we're also getting two characters that we have seen before, but not in great enough, effect to be like, this is a character that I like. Ruth Wilson as Bellatrix Lestrange, because we get one line from her in Goblet of Fire and it's a blink and you miss it kind of thing, or get distracted and you don't hear it. During a flashback, you hear her talking about the Dark Lord will rise again, Crouch. And that's it. That's the only line we get. And hopefully, I wasn't overly impressed with that one line, but, maybe she just didn't find her footing because it's one line. And based on how they did Goblet of Fire, I think they are doing book by book. So maybe she did that one line and then it came back a couple months later and, had perfected who she wanted to be. Hopefully. But I am really hoping that Ruth Wilson really plays up the craziness of Bellatrix Lestrange. And maybe that's what she was trying to do is, hey, look, I'm not crazy now. But when I come back from Azkaban, I'm going to be a little bit nutso. And then finally, we get Lisa He as Cho Chang. We have heard her, of course, because Harry is infatuated with her in Goblet of Fire. We have I think 3 or 4 lines from her. I thought she did a good job. I'm excited to see her, emote a little bit more in her voice because she's supposed to be very whiny in Order of the Phoenix. And this is going to be a very interesting book for the full cast since a lot of this book is within Harry's head. There's still tons of dialogue, but whole chapters are just in his head talking to himself, which I think will also be very interesting later down the road when we get to the TV series. But I'm excited. I'm interested. March 10th, be there. If you haven't seen my review of Goblet of Fire, make sure to check up here. I'll have it linked there. And a video will post over here that YouTube thinks you might like from me. I am doing live streams now a little bit. Just if you like long discussions of a guy who likes Harry Potter rambling about Harry Potter for a couple hours, make sure to tune in. Like, subscribe, turn on that alert bell so then you can be notified when I start streaming. I'll also put a community post up probably the day before, just say, hey, I'm going to be streaming around this time, so make sure to check it out. But without further ado, stay marvelous and Nox.